We are currently at the Royal Sonesta Hotel in Cambridge, with a beautiful view of the Charles River again. And we are getting ready for my panel presentation about transition at the Stephen J. Parker Memorial Behavioral Pediatrics Conference. And I will be presenting about transition. And we just heard some awesome speakers. One talked about sexuality for people with disabilities, and Rich Antonelli talked about medical home and care coordination. And it was super exciting, and Owen is getting her stuff ready so we can check out. And look at this giant bed that's like as big as our apartment. Whoa. I know I've already done a video blog about this hotel. And there's the $7 water that we again did not consume. But anyway, so we will see you soon. And Owen's gonna video some of my presentation, so that will be cool. And I'm excited. And then we're gonna go walk around the Galleria and see the snow that we escaped yesterday. All right, cool. See you later. First of all, I want to thank Katie and everyone for this opportunity and to be here today. This is awesome. As she said, I currently work with Got Transition, and she gave a little taste of some of the work that we have done. I'm also currently in graduate school for my Master's of Public Health at Boston University. So it's a big joke in our house that we eat, sleep, and breathe transition. I try to escape it, and I have dreams about it. It's ridiculous. But anyway, so I'm just going to give you a little nutshell version of my story. I have a rare chronic digestive disorder, as well as many secondary complications from that. But when I was growing up, I have been a self-advocate basically from the time I was old enough to speak. I never really thought anything about my health condition, that it was weird or different. I never didn't know about it. So it was sort of strange for me realizing over the last couple of years that this health awareness thing, that some people struggle with it. And when I discovered that there are young people who don't even know the name of their diagnosis or their medications and can't advocate this to other people, I was like, what do you mean? That's awful. So I really learned a lot working in transition, hearing other people's stories, hearing what providers experience. So that's been really eye-opening for me. And I no longer take my advocacy and self-awareness for granted. So basically, my transition medically did begin when I was about 18. I transitioned my primary care provider. We basically got a letter in the mail that said, you can't come here, and then a follow-up phone call that said, no, we can't refer you to anybody else, but get your records out of here. We were like, okay, awesome, cool. So at that point, I made the decision to see the person that my insurance company referred me to, and luckily for me, he did end up being awesome. I held a preliminary interview visit with him, and I said, I'm really complex, or now having learned the term HRU, I'm going to be using that. I want a t-shirt made. But, you know, I explained to him, I said, I have complex needs. Your average provider, you know, may not be comfortable with it. Where do you feel, you know, is this going to be a good fit? And he said to me, I've never heard of it. I have no idea. But I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to learn with you and from you. And that to me was, okay, seal the deal. In terms of my specialty care, we started having a conversation when I was 17. But at that point I was going away to college, so we made the decision that I was going to wait and switch to an adult provider after I graduated, because it was just too much transition at that point. After I made that transition, I have felt that my care has been a lot more centered around me since I did make the switch to adult care, which is interesting because in my work with the National Center, I often hear the opposite. But my providers have been much more willing to listen to me, to talk about my goals for my health, my physical health has actually improved since I went to my new specialist. And one quick anecdote that I want to say after having the presentation about sexuality and contraception, when I was younger, I was seeing an endocrinologist. And as I was developing, he put me on an endocrine supplement, estrogen supplement, excuse me. But I had malabsorption. So he then switched me to an oral contraception to regulate my hormones and improve bone density, etc. But it didn't work for me, and everything was out of whack. I was miserable. Nobody asked me those quality of life questions that Susan talked about. And when I was about 18, I finally switched to an OB/GYN who, my first visit, said, wait a minute, you have malabsorption? Why does he have you on an oral contraception? And I was like, oh, right. But being 12 or 13, I didn't really put two and two together at that point. He was the doctor. I did what I was told. Now I'm on a method that works for me. My health is great. My bone density has improved. I think, too, just to add on to that, I, again, live, sleep, breathe, transition. I just moved to Boston in August. And as Linda said, it's about that support system. And for me, the reason I ended up in Boston was because of the support system that I have. And I think part of the quick and dirty answer is that there is no quick and dirty answer, and we all want one. So it's a little bit of a sore spot for me when I hear the term utilize the resources, because a lot of times you're not eligible for the resources, or there's a belief that one group does something that they may not do, et cetera, et cetera. So my advice to you as providers would be to help the family and young person build connections within the community, as Linda said, who does know about housing, who does know about employment, what are the organizations that are doing real work and can be of assets? How can you creatively problem solve if there may not be an organization that can just hand you what you need? Can you connect information from various organizations or various professionals that you may have learned from? So unfortunately, I don't think there is really a quick and dirty answer, but I think in terms of connections and building those supports and being willing to constantly advocate for what those needs are and preparing youth and families to do that constant advocacy is really how I have seen success happen in independence.
Pediatric care providers and how they can improve care. Any suggestions or specific examples?
Yeah, so in this particular scenario, my pediatric specialist, I had been advocating to make changes. For example, my weight was really high at this point due to the nutrition and the volume of fluid that I was receiving. And I kept advocating, saying, I'm not comfortable, this isn't working for me, I know I could do okay with less. And because it would have been more complicated on his end, he didn't really want to do anything, because his mantra was kind of like, well, you're doing okay, so it's fine. And when I got to my adult provider, he really listened to what was comfortable for me and, wanted to see me sort of go in the other direction of not relying so much on the artificial nutrition. So I think in terms of what pediatric providers can do is really talk to the young person and family about what those healthcare goals are, either in a care plan setting or just in conversation, and talk about, what might be possible while keeping that young person healthy, but what does that young person want to do in terms of their life, and how can the health and wellness piece come into play so that they can have those goals fulfilled, whether it's sports or extracurriculars. Or for me, my adult provider knows that I travel a lot for work, and I love it. It's what keeps me going. So, he's always about, how are you feeling? How's your job going? What do you have coming up next? What can we do to help? And so I think keeping it really patient-centered and understanding what those goals are, what the parents' goals are, how they align with the young person, and then what your goals as a provider are, and how those can then be translated into the young person's day-to-day life so that they are going to be more likely to adhere to those goals and that plan. So that's my advice.
And she forgot to mention her love life. And Owen is here today, and they both have happy smiles.
He's my videographer, and he has his own transition story as I dragged him to Boston from Nevada so that I could go to school. So this is his first New England winter, if you want to talk about transition. And we've also had a hurricane and an earthquake just to mix it up.
We have time for one more.
I think for me, when I was younger, the greatest thing that my school nurse did was listen to me and believe me when I went in and said, I'm dehydrated, I need to go home, or I'm having these symptoms, I need to do A, B, and C. I know a lot of times, you know, in my history, nurses sort of had this repertoire of like, here's an ice pack, go back to class, no matter what you said. for me, you know, my family gave me those skills to understand my body and recognize what I needed to do when, whether it was, you know, be in a different classroom because of the heat or different things. And so even through various school nurses when I was younger, they never argued with me when I advocated my needs. And so I think just, you know, recognizing those more complex young people who may go to you and say, I'm having X, Y, and Z, or, you know, this feels this way, it could be this. I think when you're in school, that nurse is the first point of contact, and so recognizing what to do in those situations and working with your young people to make sure their needs get met. Hi! So we're home, and the rest of the conversation was great, and Owen did an awesome job videoing. And then we went to the Galleria Mall and had lunch and walked around, and it was great. I got to network with some people from BU and who put on the conference, and it was just a really great group and awesome to hear so many presenters talking about transition who really are in it to win it. And it was so appropriately timed to what I'm learning in my class right now about providers and how our healthcare system is structured. Scary. We have a lot of work to do, but really exciting to hear. So next up for us, next weekend, Owen leaves for DC for his youth conferences that he's helping facilitate. So we're super excited about that, and I'm going to go to Maine so I don't have to be here alone in this scary city. But yeah, we are doing really well, and I'm finally feeling better being home after being in the hospital and everything. So we had a great night, a little staycation, and hopefully that was the last of the snowstorms and spring is on its way. And thanks for everybody for following and staying up to date with us even when I'm crazy and don't blog or video blog that much. So stay tuned, hopefully we'll do more, and thanks for watching. Bye.